All right, we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait and see who's gonna show up. So right now we've got nobody here just yet. It's still that time of day, so I'm gonna wait till we get a few people on board. So we're gonna get started with some of the problems that I've been seeing with properties. We talk about Section 8 and horror stories. I deal with about 3,700 units across 3 states and 30 landlords. So that's a lot of people, a lot of applications that I deal with, and I run across all kinds of situations. I don't personally I don't take on properties that are bad. I sometimes rehabilitate them from landlords that have lost control. But most of the properties that I deal with, I actually get rid of the prostitutes, the drug dealers, gang members, drug users, and the other issues that come along with it. So these are Section 8 properties, and everybody out there at some point or another makes a mistake. And I believe that people have an opportunity to be able to recover from those problems. So with the more than 3,700 units across the U.S. that I deal with, my main process is talking with these people to make sure they're in the right place. But when I meet new contracts and new landlords, I often deal with properties where things have de-evolved. Landlords get greedy. They want to get tenants very quickly. They don't check people from their criminal and their credit. Oh, by the way, that's my co-producer. That's Big Pops. So when you get greedy as a landlord, you get people in the building, and then things can go very badly. And I've got to tell you, a lot of people think that Section 8 is about people that are going to destroy your property or go in there and never pay rent again. But most of the people that we have given second chances to are very gracious about that, and they actually pay the rent. I think that the highest percentage of people that I have problems with when it comes to horror stories and tear things up are actually the tenants that present themselves with housing choice vouchers that don't seem to have a lot of problems. That's where things go really, really bad. So I want to give you an example of a property that's I deal with. It's 200 units. It's out in California, and I'm going to leave it there for legal purposes. But I've dealt with a wide range of issues with people. I get applications in. I can see that these people, a lot of Section 8 tenants, HCV, seniors, people that have survived domestic violence. I've got alcoholics. I've got people that are former crack users, former meth users, and they're in different stages of recovery and different things. A lot of people just think that vouchers are just vouchers. They're just low-income people, but people come with a host of problems. And a lot of landlords make one big mistake. They look at the paperwork, they let people in. And then, of course, if you're really not watching what you're doing, a lot of people that are street savvy, they tell a really compelling story. So if you don't know how to read between the lines and watch for the bullshit they tell you. Okay, so you have to understand kind of the street language and the attitude that a lot of people have through Section 8. Then you'll end up with a building full of chaos. I took over a property in Chicago. It was 35 units, and I had to evict every single last person there. Not one paper lease. We had prostitutes, drug dealers. We had stolen everything, every light bulb. I mean, I think we were down to the copper in the wall is where we were left with that. They really took advantage of this old couple. And so anyways, they sold that property to the new owners, and the new owners said, Jay, we don't know what to do. We're actually scared to go on our own property. We didn't even know it was this bad, So I managed to serve 3-day notices and all of them. By the time we got inside the units, it was pretty much down to the studs. They had stolen everything, but I show you, that's how things can de-evolve. Now, another thing I got to say is with dealing with larger units, one of the things that I do is for a lot of my landlords is I screen everybody, and I either meet them or I talk to them, and we go over the criminal history, and I see where they are in recovery if that's the issue. Now, I have some tenants that have no problems, but make no mistake, the ones that come with no problems are usually the ones that will surprise you. I have not personally, I manage these properties very carefully. In other words, I don't let things de-evolve. We're not going to turn it into project-based housing. No building and landlord that I deal with, they have a 1% ratio. And one of the reasons is when I get new landlords doing investment, I ensure that I first do not purchase large properties near low-income areas. I don't purchase them in areas where it's connected to downtowns or a big homeless population or where there's high crime. So I try to stick to the industrial areas. And so in other words, the purpose behind it is, the type of clientele we may get there may have problems. So I get them as far away from those problems as possible. So I make it difficult for them. I don't make it personally difficult, but the property's location makes it difficult for them to go and get involved in more trouble. So I've got to tell you, we've had a lot of success with that. We deal with a lot of homeless people. And let me tell you something. Those guys come with vouchers. They pay well and they do well. And a lot of them don't have any problems after that. They maintain. They're very grateful just to have a place to stay. I deal with a lot of domestic violence victims getting away from abusive situations, mentally, physically. And again, they're very ingratiated. Now, I do occasionally have people that are completely crazy. When they call me, and I had one lady, she had a history of drinking, and every time she would drink, she would get tore up. And I knew this was going to play out into the complex. So I told her, I said, look, you have a special condition on your lease. If I catch you out there getting trashed by the pool, then we're going to have to put you out. I can't have you doing that. First thing the lady says to me, rather than thanking me for giving her a chance that no other landlord probably would have, was, well, you telling me I can't drink in my own apartment? And I said, your application has been rejected, and I just hung up because I really don't have time for people like that. So another thing you guys should realize, this is not, the properties I deal with also are not your typical Section 8 properties as well. We take a variety of people with disabilities, mental problems, and other things, okay? And it's a mixture of about 30 to 40 different types of vouchers. And so a lot of people these are the people that people get thrown away. No landlord wants them because they don't have perfect credit and things like that. So I've got people that are, been out of prison a couple of years. They're trying to change their life. So these people, like I said, are all pretty grateful. I'd say less than 1% that I get that come in there and tear things up. But, one of the more interesting things is when you're actually in these properties and you're dealing with these folks, you get all kinds of interesting personalities. You've got people, you get the lonely seniors that come down and love to chat all day. I've got my police, my snitches that like to roll around the property and mind everybody's business, and they can be a big problem for you if you get a tenant like that. They actually take on the persona of thinking they're a manager. And so they become an irritant to your property. So you'll find out you have to put them out very quickly. You may think that's a valuable thing to have on your property. It's not. They're the most annoying. They start fires everywhere they go. So you really do have to get them out of your property. It's just not an appropriate situation, especially when you have 200 units. We had a case recently where one of these people like to mind everybody's business walked up in somebody else's apartment. They ride through the delusion that they're the manager and they can just enter into anybody's door. So we ended up putting them out. I have other situations. One thing I carefully screen for is I have a zero tolerance. So you come in there and your car's banging out music at all hours, I'll put your guest out. All of you got to go. Okay. So there won't be none of that. If you're going to have if you're going to barbecue under, hang by somebody's door, or your kids are going to come running, stomping down the sidewalks every day, because when you're in these three-tier buildings, there's nothing worse than you get that one tenant, and I understand people have kids, but you can also train them to not be wild animals. Okay. And so running up and down the deal, if that becomes a big problem, then I won't allow, those type of tenants to be there because it's not appropriate an environment especially for a lot of people that are maybe in recovery, low income, they get enough stress, without a litter of kids playing skip rope or whatever on the third floor. So I'm not trying to be rude, but you have to think about the mental state of everybody in the complex. I don't talk, another thing we deal with is traffic, people coming in and out. Look, drug dealers, let me tell you something, they don't make it 10 minutes of my property. I actually, before they can even turn their wheel into the driveway, they're out. Okay. You have to keep those people out. If I suspect that they're prostitutes, turning tricks, stuff like that, a lot of people come in and out. I put them out. I put all their guests out, their friends out. I'll evict the whole row if I have to. So that's one of the unique management properties or skills that I have is I very carefully control that. I don't just go out there and talk shit to the tenants. I actually control that situation. So what you have is a lot of people that just want to live a normal life, and you're able to achieve that on my properties. Now, these other ones where they've got 983 negative reviews because, there's cracked pipes in the parking lot. Let me tell you something. That throwing trash everywhere is shit. I'm going over, I'm knocking people. I said, you can either pick up the trash or you can walk to the front office and pick up your 3-day notice. So I expect all your shit on the sidewalk or you clean up your act. So, I'm not trying to be too aggressive with the tenants, but I've got to say that sometimes on a property, now, I mind you that if you come in normally and you don't have a background for problems, I typically don't bother those type of tenants. But the ones that come with a lot of baggage, I do put special conditions on the lease to prevent that type of behavior. So there's some accountability, because let me tell you something, my investors and the owners didn't put all that money into there for this just to play out like your personal playground. So when it comes to horror stories, I really do try to prevent those. And I do that because I make myself very known. When I call people, I interview them, sometimes 20, 30 minutes. And when I see there's drug use and all that, I'm not shy about it. I'll ask them, okay, when's the last time you hit the meth pipe? Because if that's going to be a problem here, we're not going to let you in the property. I try to look at that, whether or not they're in enough recovery. I talk to their counselors, and a lot of these vouchers come with conditions already, especially rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing. So you've had a long history of flipping out or mental problems, then you're expected to maintain your mental health care along with your caseworkers while being on property, because we're not going to have you lose it and you start getting off the medications and all that. So I don't want people to think these properties are filled with crazy people, ex-criminals, but we give people extra chances in all these programs. And I got to tell you, it runs a lot smoother than actually ordinary complexes these days. The pandemic has made it very difficult. So landlords used to prefer market rate people paying cash. You don't even know if you can even pay your mortgage anymore. So having people with vouchers is highly preferable these days, because you're at least guaranteed 70% of the money, and you'll probably be able to survive the pandemic. So I've got a lot of landlords have changed their opinion. Another thing is, I like to make sure that my properties are always well balanced, and I mean ethnically. An equal portion of Hispanic, white, Asian, Arabic, and all that. I want a community to resemble America. Okay, not the ideals of somebody that has some bizarre idea that everybody should be white or everybody should be black that's in the property. It creates a little bit more balance, and it's more comfortable for everybody involved when you have balanced numbers. And another thing is, I like to make sure that I know that all the tenants are well balanced as well, so they get along. I also reserve all the corner spots. So if you have a horseshoe complex, I reserve all the corners, so the front two corners and the back two corners. When I have problem tenants, I simply switch them from the center to the corners. So I always keep a rotation, because sometimes you don't need to evict people. Sometimes people just cannot stand the person they're living next to. And I have that luxury, obviously, when I'm dealing with my larger landlords, when I have 200 and 500 units on a property. And so I'm able to separate it. Not every situation is going to be great, and then I have other situations that play out where we have, sometimes people come out there and they try to muscle their way with the drugs and all that. Look, I address that very easy. I just come out with a camera, and I don't give any fair warning. I just come out with an army of police, and then I have you removed, and then I give you 3-day notice, because that way you get a 3-day notice and a box of trash bags. It means pack your shit and get out. I don't play with that. When I accept applications, the first thing I always do is fill out a 3-day notice to vacate, and I just don't date it, and I keep it. And what I do is we reserve the first month's rent. That way, where landlords make mistakes is, when they first collect money from tenants, you should always keep a reserve. That way, you never have a problem doing an eviction or paying the sheriff's office to remove people. If you get down the road and money's tight, you want to make sure that you're not going to be held hostage by your own finances. So I always make sure first month's rent has the ability to be able to remove these people. To be frank with you, our ratio of having to do evictions and throw people out is less than 2%. So it's pretty good. Now, we do deploy cameras, but it's social responsibility, but you'll find a lot of people don't really care about that. But, I tell the property managers, now to keep in mind, I am the regional or district manager for a lot of these properties. I don't actually sit there and go around the property, but we do build relationships with each of these tenants to ensure. Another thing we build in the lease is making sure that we have the ability to go into property and do a 1-month inspection every month. So we take a look, whether under the guise of maintenance or under the guise of doing this inspection. Because if you're knocking holes out and you're cutting the copper out the walls and you're tearing up all the cabinets, then we can just go ahead and process the eviction and just be done with you. And another thing I got to tell you is, look, when you know a tenant's struggling, that is the best time to not press these people, because when things de-evolve with tenants, it's always a situation where the landlord becomes a complete asshole. And then what does the landlord do? He goes and puts pressure on a person that does not have the money to pay. And then what they quit doing? They quit cleaning their apartment, they quit caring, and then it grows into anger, and then they start tearing everything apart inside. So it's really the best time, instead of being a jerk to these type of people, if at all possible, to try to help them. If they can't be helped, then I usually make them a cash offer. Look, I know things aren't going good. Why don't we skip putting an eviction on your record? See if we can set you up with a hotel or something, and then here's a cash offer just to leave. It's much simpler than having that de-evolve where you go through 90 days to 60 days of them tearing everything up, and then it turns into hostility. So sometimes the best way is to buy your way out. Now, some of you may not believe in that, but I mean, like I said, I've dealt with every situation, and that's another issue I'd talk about is, tenants and pets. You keep, barking dogs and all that. You really, really have to create a lot of rules to ensure that people are not going to disturb other people. And that's what it comes down to, is keeping a clean and honest property and giving people an honest chance. One thing that I find with a lot of landlords is they are prejudiced, they're biased, they're all kinds of shit, man. And you cannot, you can't build your building that way. You have to, people have problems. There are a lot of people that have a lot of problems that have never been caught, that have no criminal record. So if you think for a minute that your best ability is going to keep problems at your property, you're wrong. Now, I know there's a lot of videos on YouTube about horror stories. Let me tell you something. What you never hear about those stories about horror stories and houses about burned down and tore up is, first of all, about half of them are fake. You got idiots on YouTube that will literally go out in places like Detroit. They will videotape a house that's been abandoned, okay, and pretend to be the landlord and post that. And what's happening is you go out there, you watch that video, and of course you're enraged and you see it and you think it's, wow, how could that ever happen? And then really it's just bullshit, okay? So that's what's going on about half the time. The other half the time you talk about singular landlords that rent a home, and it seems to be a home. What did you think was going to happen when you let a lady in with 15 children under the age of 3? Did you think they were not going to color on the wall and knock holes in every room? Did you make a poor choice? Did you get desperate and need rent money? You have to screen. You have to talk with these people. One of the things I tell every property manager is, look, when they drive up, meet them at the car, man. If the car's trashed, then you can expect that your unit's going to be trashed. I'll actually call employers. What's the general attitude of this person? If you even have time, sometimes go visit them where they're already staying. Actually drive and talk to the old landlord. It tells you a lot about what's going on. I take on very serious stuff, hardest cases, and give them chances. And they give me less problems than market rate people that you watch these videos that tear up the whole house. So I would say on a percentage of the 3,700 units that I deal with on a yearly basis, less than 1% are what you see tearing things up. So on a revenue standpoint, I can say that out of all the horror stories, it only actually affects 2% of the bottom line. So, you live, you learn, and that's what it comes down to. But you cannot make prejudicial decisions because of somebody's color, their age, their race, their income levels. That stuff is not an indicator of whether or not they'll do it. I've had seniors that'll tear shit up, okay, and leave you with a $5,000 bill. Look, if you're going in there and you're renting your home and you know that you've got marble countertops and everything's a nice golden fixtures and all that, you're asking for problems. You should be putting things in the home that are builder grade, that are expendable, and that will last longer, okay? I know a lot of people are preaching on YouTube that you should just put the worst trash in there. Well, you're wrong about that. I mean, because first of all, that's an indignity that you're giving the customer, the renter. Number two, if you're not putting things in to last, it's not going to survive children in a family, obviously. Another thing is I like to keep my properties 50-50 blend. That's going to be older and a little bit younger. And, keeping open relationships, so I understand the mindset and what's going on with people. If people feel like they cannot come up with all the rent at the end of the month, the thing is you have to develop relationships with them so they're honest with you. When you turn into a beast to these people and they know they can't trust you, then that's when they shut down and they stop paying altogether. That's where landlords make the real big mistake, is they shut down the communication and they feel that they need to be the enemy of the tenant, and then it gets real bad. I don't address it that way. I treat people like humans. So I know if you're struggling to pay the rent, I keep an updated list of places where they can get rental assistance, and then we stretch it as long as we can to get them through the lease. Rarely have I gone negative with that. So they see they genuinely care, and then they start actually increasing their efforts to be able to pay the rent. And to be frank with you, they're a portion of most of these vouchers that we receive in all of our tenants. So their response is only a couple $100 in most cases. It's not a lot of money for them to come up with. I mean, hell, we usually just send them down to Catholic Charities in the months that are really struggling and the problem's fixed. Now, the horror stories I'm talking about is specifically for vouchers, Section 8, and so on. Now, if you got market rate, you're just completely fucked. When they can't pay, they just can't pay. Good luck with that, especially in the pandemic. I watched about, I don't know, nearly half of all the landlords I was dealing with almost go out of business over that. So you may want to switch gears in tough times. We don't even know if we're out the pandemic. So the real horror story is really just making bad decisions as a landlord. And then, of course, you do sometimes get bad tenants, and you have to address that and hold people accountable. Look, if people have an attitude the day they apply, they're going to have an attitude when you act for rent. I don't deal with that indignity where people are disrespectful. If I or the property managers perceive an indignity, or if we see that you have family that has an attitude, or just people in general are going to be an attitude, you won't be leasing on our property. I only want to manage manageable people. So, that's where you have to slow down and really take a look at your core of the people that you're trying to rent to. So I know this video seems more of on the renter side, but I wanted to apprise everybody. If you're looking at all these applications and you're considering things, I talk with a lot of landlords. On an average week, I deal probably, with 10 new different landlords that call. We talk about things and how to populate buildings, and always to their surprise is the type of tenants we can get. A lot of these vouchers are 100% pay. So, sometimes dealing with the toughest cases or some of the best ones. The videos about people tearing things up, that tends to be the ones that come in with no problems and they become one. I'm actually more suspicious of people that don't have that many problems on their application. At least I know what to expect from people that already demonstrate a criminal record and other issues, because then we can address that at first conversation and then maintain how they're doing throughout that process of being there on the property. It is a little bit of babysitting, but I can tell you, with a 98% success rate with tenants, giving my investors no problems, it works a hell of a lot better than going down there to Oak Acres, where it's complete chaos at night, when you've got drug dealers in every other car. They're smoking crack in a parking lot. They're turning tricks out of A1 through 4B. The landlord's scared because he's going to get beaten, shot, or stabbed. Let me tell you something. People like that, they don't come on my property. They don't last 10 minutes. And if I have to bring out armed security, I will do it. I will actually make the drug dealer fear me. I'll make them fear me, because I'll just simply keep the police living there until they're gone. So I'm not really scared of that kind of issue. So we don't really, and to be frank with you, those type of people only arrive on your property when they figure out you're an idiot and a clown as a landlord. So they identify properties that have weak management or owners that just simply don't get it. And that's why they do that. I have a reputation in all my properties of being an extremely reasonable and fair person, but drug dealers and prostitutes know that it's a no-go on our properties. They know not to even bring that fucking car on the lot, because if they do, I put them out, and then they can spend the rest of their days doing a 2-year stretch in prison, for whatever they're being charged for. And I'll get them on felony trespass. You come in and turn on the radio, you're gone. So yeah, you have to be tough about it. For most of you that are landlords or tenants, the thing is, you want to identify landlords that care. My investors actually care. They want to work with people that want a second chance to work through things. I want to work with landlords that are fair and reasonable, that are not discriminatory, biased, prejudiced, racist, and all that. I'll turn those kind of landlords down, because their only interest is money and how they treat people badly. They hire shitty maintenance companies that barely ever repair anything. So I don't deal with slum properties. So I detect that a client's going to be a slumlord, I'll just simply jump off the contract and let them go, because I'm not going to run that. I'm not going to be a party to that kind of garbage. Okay. It's already tough enough for people to be low income people, they have as many problems as normal people. They suffer from all kinds of issues, physical issues, mental issues, drinking problems, drug problems, all kinds of problems. Same as ordinary people, except they don't make a lot of money. So, we try to keep these properties clean and functioning good. And like I said, keeping a good racial mix and also keeping a good mixture of young and old keeps the property calm. When you want to fill the whole building with nothing but 20 to 30-year-olds, you're asking for a lot of problems. You have to blend it out with age groups, because it tends to calm the situation down. I've learned that, mixing 50 and 60 and 70 in with some of the younger folks makes the property just more harmonious. There's a sense of responsibility. They're less likely to engage badly with older tenants, and older tenants tend to represent a little bit more experience on the property. But yeah, you got to host a problem. There are problems that are going to come up in there, with break-ins in the cars, stuff like that. But you address it. But as far as this bullshit I see on YouTube, the horror story, my whole house has been burned down. A lot of that stuff, it just comes down to bad management. And you never hear the other side of the story from the tenant where things have gone bad when their lights and water have been shut off when they're a day late. You can't do that. When you start treating people like trash, and you're doing it while they're still living in your home, that's probably the worst move you can make. It's not a very smart one. So when it comes to horror stories, I just tell people, if you don't know how to be a good manager, try to learn to be one. If you don't, hire a consultant. I am one. I deal with a lot of big properties and a lot of big landlords. And the reason my properties have not turned into a nightmare is because I teach the landlords what they need to know to keep things from de-evolving and turning into a crazy situation. Okay. So it looks like most of my core audience didn't show up today. I must have picked the wrong time. I'm guessing that it's probably too early in New York and too late too early in California and too early in New York. But that's all right. At least 4 or 5 of you showed up. I'm sorry I wasn't able to show you a lot of videos, photos, and other things for this because with live videos, I haven't figured out the option how to put up photos. And of course, there would be legal implications for me to do that if I were showing you photos of former tenants' properties or giving you their names. But I wanted y'all to get an idea of some of the things that really go on in a property. We dealt with so many different little things. And, this past month has been tough. I know I've had to put about 6 people out. And there are clever people. Sometimes they even get past me. But everybody reveals their true colors when they get in there. The worst action you can do is not taking any action. The minute you suspect there's going to be a problem, you either feel like they're going to address it or just simply move immediately for eviction. Okay. Don't play. You know what? It's like being in a casino. Don't spin the wheel. If you're not willing to gamble, then don't do it. Okay. A court eviction costs so much and then 150 to the sheriff, and you can just simply be done with it. Because the longer they stay there, the more the opportunity they have to tear up. And most of them don't. They leave it dirty. So what? We have in-house maintenance. They can get in and out real quickly, clean all that up, and have the unit back up and ready to go, unless it's a serious case. And that's why I do 1 month inspections with maintenance and all that, because sometimes I have seniors that kind of give up mentally and physically. They're already burdened by being low income and having very little money. And so sometimes they let things go in their own home. So it's good to let them know that people care about them. So if you treat people with decency and treat them like a human, and you check on your old people and you make friends with the young ones and you make yourself known as a fair but tough and reasonable landlord, then you'll earn the respect of people there. And that's not all the time. There's always going to be a handful of a problem. And I have a whole drawer full of 3-day notices, okay? They can always vacate. If you can't handle the caging out there on the property, get out, man. I always try to keep it real. So when I have people that, when I have people that are good people, I treat them, with respect. When I've got people that I feel that I can sense that maybe they're a little bit out in the street, have a street attitude, then, I switch gears. I can talk street too. I can just curse and use as many profanities as it makes in order to communicate the message that we're going to pay rent, we're going to remain responsible, and let me know if you're having problems. We're there to help. So Section 8, when you take that on, you're taking on more than a voucher. You're taking on people that have problems, and then sometimes they make mistakes. You do not, like I said, you don't want to de-evolve and treat your tenant badly. They're not like market rate. They can't recover easily. They can't just run to their family and ask for $1,000. So it's important. You got to put more effort in, okay? You're already getting 80% of your rent, 70, 80% of your rent. So you do have to be a little bit of a therapist, a little bit of a counselor, and work with people. But when you become hostile, it always ends badly. And the amount of damage somebody can do when they quit caring. Imagine this. So if I told you I'm going to put you out, and you don't even have the money to move your stuff to store. So you're going to lose everything. You're going to be on the street. You have nothing to live for. So what can you do? You can simply cause $20,000 in damage inside of a unit. Okay. That's what you can do. So you guys going out there harassing these tenants and making that shit even worse, you're making a big mistake because you don't know how bad they can levy you on those units. They can tear your whole house to the point that you'll have to take a second mortgage to fix it. So do not press people that are desperate, especially when you're threatening to put their ass out on the street. That is the worst thing you can do. So, look, I've enjoyed talking, guys. I just want to jump on briefly. And like I said, apparently with only six viewers, I picked the wrong time of day. So we're going to try this again Saturday. But I wanted to make sure I could get out here and give y'all some stories about how things go on my properties, a few little horror stories, and a lot of advice about the experience I've had. Whether you believe that what I'm saying is reasonable or not doesn't matter to me, because most of you as landlords and or tenants have never managed over 4,000 units. So I'm not inclined to believe that my advice is that bad. So look, I've enjoyed having y'all, and I want to see if there's anybody jumped on with us. Tyler Jackson, what do you have in Chicago? I've got a 35 unit. I got 35 units over there in one building. It's an older couple. They're pastor and preacher. They bought a property that was loaded with a bunch of bad people, and we got them out of there. And I got people that actually wanted to pay rent in there, all Section 8 voucher, people desperate to get a place to live, and moved them in, and things went well. Looks like Love Wyatt. Exactly. Your ego is not your amigo. Well, it's not my job to entertain. It's my job to be a landlord and a regional manager and a district manager. It's not always there to be cute with people. I do my best to address things as best I can. And I try to adapt my personality, person to person, tenant to tenant, to meet whatever situation is there. So I don't really worry about the first impressions. I just worry about whether or not it's equitable. The tenant needs a home, and we need to be able to pay a mortgage. So it's not always about how friendly you can be, but I do try my best. Most people know that about me. So I don't even know if I interpreted your question right. So I may have read into that wrong. I meant you. Yes, you were calm. Oh yeah. I'm pretty laid back when I'm well rested, to be honest with you. It's been a tough 90 days because I was helping a lot of tenants for rental assistance, and I was on edge there. I was working about 14 hours a day, plus processing applications from all these landlords was tough. I'm calmed down now that I'm rested. I've actually got some of the color back to my face from only getting 3 hours of sleep a night. Mr. Jackson, I have a voucher. I can't find a house in Chicago. Mr. Jackson, what I want you to do is, not on this video, I haven't had time to put my email. Hit me up. Go to one of my other videos. You'll find an email usually in the first comment. And once you do that, I'll contact the landlord over there. They're a pastor, and they're seniors, and they're pastors. Okay, they're good people. And they're looking for good tenants. So if you're a good person, I'll likely be the one that reviews your application. Like I said, I have about 30 properties all over. So we can talk about your situation. If you're close by that property, you probably have a good chance of me letting you in, because I made this channel specifically to help people, Who else is commenting? Let's see, how's Chicago? Oh, okay. So you've had your 3 years. Well, that's good, man. Love Wyatt, are there any nonprofits affiliated with Section 8? Okay, so Section 8. So let me I'm gonna give you a very short answer to that. HUD, the Department of Housing in Washington, D.C., issues two types of checks. The first one goes down to the housing authority for every county, for every state and county. And then the other check they issue are to nonprofits. Now, those nonprofits issue a different type of voucher, which you're talking about. Those are called continuum of care. So if you type in, say, New Orleans, Louisiana, continuum of care, you'll find that these are the nonprofits that offer vouchers. They offer two types that are called RRH, which you can type that in, or rapid rehousing. And the second one is PSH, which is permanent supportive housing. Now, RRH helps you get back on your feet for about 2 years, and it's kind of a degrading payment. So if they're paying $1,000 the first couple of months, and they may lower the amount they're willing to pay, and then that keeps going until the 2 years expire. So it's not for everybody. The PSH is 100% for life, unless you die, break the lease, or abandon the unit. It's something to look into. They give you a simple assessment, but it's still tricky. You really want to know how to answer this question and get around that, but it helps a lot of people. Whether you're homeless, you're imminently homeless, or you're just in a situation that's simply going nowhere. I want to start one for Vesta. I'm not quite sure what you're communicating about that BSTA. Are you a landlord attempting to be a nonprofit? So you have to kind of explain that to me, what you're asking there. If you're applying for federal funds and you want to be an administrator for the continuum of care, that's a different story. Oh, for veterans, that's going to be HUD-VASH. So if you're just wanting to accept HUD-VASH, then that would also run through the continuum of care, or CES, coordinated entry system, which has the HIMS, which is a homeless management information system. HUD-VASH is basically designed on 2 levels. They either give you a HCV or they give you HUD-VASH with COC. Oh, you're an entrepreneur. Okay. Well, let me tell you some complexities here, okay? So HUD-VASH might seem like a great idea, and we all want to help our veterans, okay? I get that, and their vouchers pay very well, but so do a lot of others. Now, one thing you have to screen carefully with your veterans, because they have a strong propensity for drugs and alcohol, and I believe in second chances, absolutely, but there are some unrecoverable cases, so you need to walk a very tight line when you're dealing with HUD-VASH, like you would any person that's been exposed to a lot of different things, okay? There are other vouchers you can get involved with, Section 811. You could take seniors under NED that pay 100%. You could take the PSH at 100%. So, I mean, there is approximately 132 different types of funding. All of them give equal and good amount of money. So you would have been able to survive the whole pandemic without ever losing a penny on your mortgage. You would have got all your rent. So it really depends on how you put your portfolio together. A lot of people think as a landlord, when they want to invest in properties and have tenants, that it's all just Section 8. No, my friend. Look, there are hundreds of types of vouchers and funding levels out there. So you really never know. And then, we could go through Red Cross. We could do FEMA. I mean, I can go on for about an hour, all the different types tenants you could take. Yeah, no problem, man. Look, my advice is contact me one day by email, and I'll try to include you in on a bunch of them. So there's more to the world to Section 8 than anybody could ever imagine. Like I said, I've been doing it 15 years. Most people know me by reputation on YouTube or Google, because I've consulted for magazines and a bunch of different things. But man, there's a whole lot of ways to cover your butt when it comes to that, and also get good tenants. I have different landlords with different goals, and the most important thing is I educate my landlord. Right now, I've got a mortgage company, a big mortgage company, and all 3 of the people that own it, the men, they've gone out to the property. They're working like day laborers out there. They're learning how all of it works. And let me tell you, these guys went from suit and ties to getting out there and get their hands dirty. They're learning about how to deal with people as humans and how Section 8 works, the attitude that comes with it, and the problems that come with it. And I'm telling you, in the first couple of months, it was rough. I thought these, these CEO types were they were gonna fizzle on me out there and then give up on the investment. It was a pretty expensive property, about $8 million, but they've gone out there, they're proving themselves, they're learning, and I've been teaching them now, it seems like about 16 weeks, and I think they're going to be moving into 10,000 units. So it's all about the learning process. If you don't know, always ask somebody, don't just go in. Look, Google's not a good guide, okay? Because everybody gives information on Google, but they're all copying each other, and to be frank with you, most of what I read on Google is just bullshit. Undercover Billionaires Grant Cardone. I'm not quite sure what that is. And that's not, when it comes to that kind of thing, whatever that may be, I work too much probably to watch anybody else on YouTube but myself, and I barely watch my own videos, so I'm not quite sure what that. I'll have to look that up later. So, all right, guys, looks like we only got 4 viewers left. We're at about 38 minutes. I think I probably babbled on long enough, and so anyways, if y'all want to join me again Saturday, we'll talk about a little bit more in depth. This was just me hopping on and just kind of saying hello to some of my normal members of my channel, and then those of you who've managed to wander in and hear me listen or hear me talk about the ramblings of my bad tenants. So I've enjoyed having y'all. Y'all take it easy. Bye-bye.